Welcome to CineMARVEL, a film, television, and entertainment podcast. My name is Evan.
My name is Jake.
And welcome back to the podcast so special that it only comes once a year. And today we have two special guests with us. We have Barrett Gay.
Hello.
And my lovely wife, Margaret Wheatley.
Hello.
And we're just here to talk about movies. Particularly, we're going to continue our Marvel discussion from last time. We did a non-spoiler review of Infinity War. And then before that, just kind of went through the MCU just as a whole. This time we're going all spoilers with Infinity War. And then from there, we just saw Captain Marvel tonight. So we're excited to talk about that. And then we're going to give some in-game theories since it's less than a month away. We're super stoked about it. So, Jake, why don't you kick us off, man?
Yeah. So I guess I'll just start off with my thoughts on the movie. But I mean, this was, I think a lot of even the actors will kind of tell you this. This whole film was not the first one, but definitely one of the ones that most films and most studios won't touch this. They won't touch killing off literally half their major characters almost. And so the fact that they went with an idea where the villain actually did win, and that's such a rare thing to do in Hollywood because of audience reaction and just the expectations of what you go into for a movie. And so I think all of us are really happy that happened. And we've been fans for years now. Like I think last time I said I didn't start off being a big fan when Iron Man first premiered, and so I didn't catch up probably till Avengers was in theaters with being a big fan of the entire MCU. But even that was 2012. That was 7 years ago. So being in the thick of the MCU and being such a big fan of it for 7 years, like we expected a big something to happen. And I think Infinity War really delivered on that, where it was a big cliffhanger at the end, and the villain actually won. Yeah. And so now we're getting into Endgame coming in just less than a month. But I think overall Infinity War really delivered, at least for me, on expectations of what we all... Actually, I think it over exceeded what I expected, because I have expected the villain to win, I think, going into it, but also I didn't know where it would end.
Yeah, you were talking about the different endings. Barrett was telling us during one of our discussions that the original ending the film was supposed to end with the snap and just go to black, and we weren't even going to know what happened. And Barrett's a big proponent of this potential ending, so talk to that a little bit.
Well, I don't even remember where I heard that, but I just remember thinking I wish I could be in two universes. One where I watch the movie and it ends with the snap, and then one where I watch the movie and it ends how it ended, where you see the destruction and you see the sadness, because I think both are fantastic. I just wish that I could see both with a fresh mind and have that feeling when you see, but I don't know, I just think the snap ending would have literally left everyone's jaw on the floor, more so than the original one already did. But I don't know, I would have been happy with either. Yeah,
it definitely would have been interesting to see audience reactions to that and to have experienced that. But obviously that's not the ending that we got. We saw half of our favorite characters turn to dust right before our eyes, and that all kicked off with Bucky turning to dust right in front of Steve's eyes. And when that happened, like, my jaw had been on the floor since Red Skull showed up. But at that point, I was like almost in tears, ready to just break down. I could not believe what I was seeing. Because going into the movie, I was thinking, this is going to be dark. Thanos is going to be a formidable villain. But at the end, they're going to win. And I honestly didn't think the snap was going to happen. That they were going to stay true to the comics. And especially when Thor planted Stormbreaker in Thanos' chest, I was like, okay, they got it. And then it happened. Yeah. And man, what a bold move. Now, we still don't know if, Marvel has a track record of fake killing. So we don't know if all of them are going to come back or if only some of them are. We know Spider-Man and Black Panther are.
That's my one complaint, is that they killed off two people that everyone in the audience knows they're coming back. They already have confirmed sequels. If they had not killed Black Panther and Spider-Man, I would have been more devastated. I know there are some people who are going to stay dead. I'm curious to see who's going to stay dead, but I think the one mistake was killing Black Panther and Peter Parker.
I mean, they're in the same universe now. Yeah, Disney owns half of the world now, right, so yeah. Peter Pan and Peter Parker are in the same franchise, apparently.
Peter Pan and Peter Parker crossover movie coming in 2022.
What a crossover.
Get ready for it. But excluding the snap and all the depression that comes with that. There was a lot to love and laugh at in Infinity War, and man, it was just such a great culmination of the, gosh, I can't even remember the 19 plus movies that had come before it. The Russo brothers really did craft a master movie. So, Margaret, talk to just some of the things you liked in the movie outside of the snap. What really stood out to you?
I really enjoyed Thor's story throughout the entire movie. You had mentioned that the director said it was Thor's and Thanos. It was between them because Thanos took everything away from Thor. And so seeing him get to the point where he is like, part of me is a little bit frustrated that he had to have something just to be able to fight Thanos. But because with all of the other characters, you're like, Spider-Man, it's not about the suit. Iron Man, it's not about the suit. Thor, it's really not about the hammer or the axe or whatever you have, because you have all that power without it. You had all that power whenever you were at Sakari. So when he and Hulk were there, like, he fought him without anything, and he still beat Hulk, even though, like, Hulk is like, that doesn't sound right. But he did. He is that powerful. He doesn't need it. So part of me was just a little bit frustrated with that, but I loved seeing him come in Wakanda and, like, lightning everywhere. That was just, that was my favorite part of the entire movie, because you're like, whoa, yeah. Because then you're like, all right, everything's going to be okay, like what you said. Yeah. We're good. They're going to have a happy ending, but then he got cocky, and you're like, okay, well, I guess it's not going to be okay.
Should have gone for the head.
That was an incredible scene when he came in. A smaller thing that bothered me about Infinity War, and I think, was it Infinity War? Yeah, Infinity War. And I think Civil War as well. This is a smaller thing, but Scarlet Witch lost her accent. Yeah. I thought that was so randomly inconsistent. Don't know why they told her to lose it, because she was heavily Sokovian in Age of Ultron, and then all of a sudden she's American.
In Infinity War, it was just Elizabeth Olsen.
It really, that's a sidebar, but I was just like, you're going to maintain this entire mega universe with so much continuity, and then she loses her accent?
We'd be remiss to move away from the Infinity War topic without talking about how incredible of a villain Thanos was.
Yeah.
Man, just his entrance from the beginning of the movie. Well, just first of all, the beginning of the movie in general. We've been waiting 10 years for this, and we're sitting in the theaters, and the Marvel Studios, the new logo comes up, but there's no sound to it. All you hear is the voice of Kenneth Branagh, the director of Thor, by the way, for those of you who don't know, give the Asgardian distress signal that they're being attacked. And man, and then transitioning into, you see all of the Asgardians from the end of Thor Ragnarok, or half of them at least, dead on the ground. The ship is split in two.
Dead in space.
Dead in space, yeah. Well, on the floor of the ship.
Yeah.
Then dead in space, yeah. They did. They DED dead. But
they did.
But then you see Thanos silhouetted in the background. Thor is on the ground, beaten, defeated. Really, the only one who's standing up is Loki. And the entrance, he takes out the Hulk in hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
Kills Heimdall. Chokes Loki out in front of Thor. And says no resurrections this time, which was... That was kind of meta too. Yeah. And then takes off, destroys the whole Asgardian ship, which is even more sad because Asgard got destroyed.
Yeah.
Then he killed half of the people on the ship. And then when the snap happened, another half of the people that were left were that man. Right. Thor cannot catch a break.
Yeah. Well, and another thing about Thanos is that it's so interesting to see a villain that acts from such conviction, right? So he's not acting from selfishness. He's not, because he killed Gamora to get the Soul Stone, right? So he's not acting from a place of selfishness and like, I want to get what I want. He's acting from a place, like, he truly believes that what is best for the universe is for him to kill half of it. Like, he's so delusional that he thinks that what he's doing will ultimately be beneficial. So it's like, how can you reason with that? How can you argue with that? So it's just interesting to see a villain coming from that place, because it's like Killmonger came from a place of revenge and anger and, horror and trauma in his childhood. And so many other some of the villains come from just I want to control the world and I'm evil. But this one was just a different breed, just in and of himself.
Thanos sees himself as the hero of his own story. Yeah. And really, Infinity War, Margaret mentioned this earlier, that she and I have talked about. This movie's about Thor and Thanos. Yeah. The beginning of the movie starts with them. They go on their separate paths, and then their paths lead them back together. And I didn't make this up. This is something that the Russo brothers have talked about in their commentary, in the director's commentary. And they said, had Thor landed that axe in his head, would have been Thor's movie. But because he landed in Thanos' chest, Thanos did the snap and wiped out half the universe. It becomes Thanos' movie. And the villain wins at the end. But like you said, he's a sympathetic villain because he believes what he's doing is right. You can, in a very twisted sense, you can relate to what he's doing. And Margaret and I talked about this a little bit. I think he deserved to win. Not from a moral standpoint, but he had the will and he had the drive and he was willing to do whatever it takes to accomplish his goal. The Avengers, from the fallout of Civil War, they were divided. And had they been united, I feel like they could have stopped him. But they were divided. They were cocky. Multiple members of the Avengers and Guardians were cocky. And they lost. They got dealt a huge blow. And so Thanos deserved to win. Yeah. But he's just an incredible character, portrayed well by Josh Brolin.
It was interesting. I completely agree. And I love Josh Brolin. I think he's a fantastic actor. One of the more powerful scenes to me was when he sacrificed Gamora. So obviously, as an audience, as soon as it was Red Skull, right, who said you have to sacrifice something you love. Yeah. As soon as he said that, I knew he was going to sacrifice. I think the whole audience knew he was going to sacrifice Gamora. Yeah. But I liked watching Gamora figure it out. That was so powerful and so tragic because she's like, you lost, like right here and right now, you lost, and then to see the realization on her face that like he was about to kill her, and she didn't want to die, not because she didn't want to die. She didn't want to die because she didn't want him to have the power. Yes. You know, because she was about to kill herself, right? Yeah. That's right.
She didn't want to die for him.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that was a really powerful scene. And when he was crying. Oh, yes. That was so powerful.
And she says, tears, really? And then Red Skull says, they're not for him. Oh, man. Yeah. How powerful was that? And all the music was cut out. It was just the ambient sound of the planet. I mean. Yeah.
I wonder if someone else would have taken her place eventually.
Probably Nebula. Yeah. Since she was second, had Gamora not existed, it might have been.
Or if no one had gone with him to that planet, what if he'd gone by himself?
He'd have to leave and come back, right? Yeah.
I don't know. I think he would have sacrificed Ebony Maw, the one who kind of had magic powers like Doctor Strange. Tony Stark killed him on the ship.
The one who looks like Squidward.
Yeah, Squidward. Squidward. Yeah.
Yeah, come down, Squidward.
Because, I mean, he mentions, in all my years of serving Thanos, I've never failed him. And, man, he was a cool villain. Like, I hate that they killed him off so quickly. Like, he could have been a cool, like, Doctor Strange villain in the future. Yeah. But, I mean, I understand why they did it.
They were good villains in this film. Yeah. Like, they were really good ones.
So, I think we've droned on long enough about Infinity War. So, I mean, any final thoughts from y'all about that?
That's all I got.
Oh, well, this kind of ties into Captain Marvel and Infinity War.
Great. This will be a great segue.
Nick Fury didn't know anything that was going on. Like, because we talked about this in either in the theater or in the car. Like, whenever he hits that, the pager to page Captain Marvel, like, that is his last chance to do anything. He didn't know they were in Wakanda. He didn't. I mean, maybe he didn't know. But I feel like.
But in that scene, like,
but he doesn't. But he doesn't know when Thanos gets all of the Infinity Stones. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know where he is intergalactically in the galaxy. Yeah. Or I know that's kind of Star Wars talk in the universe. Yeah. He doesn't know anything about Thanos. Yeah. Maybe he knows that he's an ultimate power somewhere out there. But even whenever Hulk. Mark Ruffalo came in in New York at Doctor Strange's place. He said, "Oh, Thanos is coming," and they were like, "Who?" Like, a lot of people don't know. Right. They don't know who Thanos is. So if you don't know, if you're not in the middle of it, if you're not at Wakanda or at Titan battling him in person, you don't know what's going on. So that's where I'll leave that.
Okay, yeah. Not a lot of it. Thanos, Barrett and I were talking about this a little bit. We just saw Captain Marvel today, and we were talking about in the post credits that Thanos, he's been so secretive. He's kept his plans very close to the vest, and the universe is a big place, so not a lot of people are going to know what's going on, what he's doing. And I think part of the reason that he waited so long to gather the Infinity Stones was because if the various factions of the galaxy figured out what he was doing over a period of time, they would have all rallied against him, and he wouldn't have been able to accomplish his goal, especially because until midway through the movie, he doesn't even know where the Soul Stone is. And it also corresponds really well. There's no confirmation on this, but I think it's very interesting that he doesn't go after the stones until after Odin's dead. The Ancient One is dead. Hel is dead. And there's just a lot of people who could have rivaled his power. Ego's dead, the Celestial. A lot of people who could have rivaled his power are gone. He remains unchallenged. The Avengers are divided. He was very strategic about what he did. And everything that he does takes place in like maybe 48 hours in the span of 2 days.
Like from the beginning of Infinity War to the end, how much time has elapsed?
Not long. I know it's been like maybe
a couple
days.
At the very end, whenever Fury calls Captain Marvel, and it's him and who else is he with?
Maria Hill, Robin.
And like they seem like they're kind of in shock. Like they get out of the car and then they're in downtown New York and they're like, "What's happening?"
Yeah.
So like they're still
That still blows my mind. Even though Margaret addressed it, it still blows my mind that like there was such a disconnect. And it's like, how did the Avengers not catch each other up on Thanos? How does Nick Fury not know what's going? I'm just like, how was the communication?
Well, Mark didn't.
With the Sokovia Accords, whenever Captain America came back to the Avengers building, the military guy was like, "Make sure you arrest them to War Machine."
Yes.
And like he was like, "Hey, glad you're here," because he knew something greater was at stake than arresting them and putting them behind bars.
Yes.
And so they're not going to tell them what they're going to do because the military is going to tell them to do something different.
Yeah.
The military is going to tell them, "Oh, we'll take care of it," or "You're going to do it the way we want you to do it, not the way you want to do it."
It really goes back to how the Russo brothers culminate everything in this film from everything that's come before. In the Winter Soldier, Hydra, S.H.I.E.L.D. is compromised. We find out that a lot of it has been infiltrated by Hydra. So it's gone. Nick Fury has to go into hiding and into the shadows. So already there's not a constant stream of communication like there was.
Yeah.
Two, like Margaret said, the Sokovia Accords are in place. So the Avengers are divided, and the ones who have not registered, like Captain America, Black Widow, Falcon, etc., they've been on the run for 2 years.
Yeah,
and so everyone is
that's
divided
true.
and doing their own thing. And so there's just not constant communication. It goes back to my theory that had the Avengers been together, I feel like they could have stopped Thanos. And I think in Endgame, that's going to be the defining factor. They're together.
Yeah.
They're in it. Like in the trailers, it says whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Because that's what Thanos did. He did whatever it takes in this movie, and that's why he won.
So we saw Captain Marvel today, or Barrett and I saw it for the first time today. Margaret and Evan saw it for the third time.
I saw it for the second time today. Evan saw it for the third time.
This was my third time.
Yeah. So like first, I'm not judging at all. The first impact for me was like, this is an incredible film. And I think within the first probably hour or maybe half hour of the film, it's not that I was annoyed is a bad word. I wasn't annoyed by anything, but it was different because we saw her story play out along with her. Yeah. And that's kind of an uncommon narrative to take because we don't know her backstory either. And she's still figuring that out. Mostly you go into films kind of knowing, or like they tell the backstory, but it's not her figuring out her backstory. And so going into it, the first half hour felt not disconnected, but it felt different because of the fact that she was trying to remember her past, and we were remembering with her.
And they added the element of the possibility of Skrulls manipulating her memories to where, because wasn't it Jude Law's character who said, "You don't know if that's your memories or not. You can't even trust yourself." So there's that. You're trying to figure out what's real the whole time.
Marvel just keeps bringing great talent into their movies. I could go on and on about that, but there was a lot of criticism coming from certain critics about her performance, or even fans like saying that it was very wooden. And I don't really understand. I mean, I get it, but she was discovering herself along the way, like you said. So
she didn't have personality.
Exactly.
She didn't have memories for 6 years of who she actually was. So she was who they told her that she was, and she was a warrior who has been given these gifts by the Kree, and she has to learn to control it. Control. And when you have to try and control everything, you're kind of like, you've got to stick up your butt.
Mhm.
You really do.
Yeah, you're a little rigid.
You're rigid,
Yeah.
and so all of that is understandable. And even whenever the Miranda, is that the little girl's name? Monica. Whenever Monica comes up to her and says, "Aunt Carol's here," and hugs her, like she's like, she doesn't know how to respond to her because she doesn't remember. She doesn't know who she is. She doesn't remember feeling love towards her at all. Like she just, all the Kree have told her is, don't feel, don't feel, don't feel. And that's who she is.
Conceal, don't feel.
That's,
She's Elsa.
Yes.
She's Elsa.
That's who she is, and that's she acts that out very well. Like it's not wooden, it's who she.
I thought she was an excellent choice. And another, I can see what they mean by wooden in that her delivery, she kind of talks, her mouth is very closed when she talks, and so I can see what they mean by that. But she's snarky and has a total a rapport with Sam Jackson, and so I understand the wooden in the fact that like her actual delivery, her physical delivery is kind of the same, but she's got a lot of quirks and quips, and I think Brie Larson was an excellent choice. And I didn't know this actress until this movie. Like I had no idea. I didn't know she was in Room. I knew about the movie Room. Didn't know it was her. Had no idea of her experience or her resume before that. But I agree with Evan that I think the casting director for every single movie, they've been the most brilliant casting directors of all time, because every single person I think was perfectly suited for their role. Tom Holland for Spider-Man, Robert Downey Jr., his redemption is his own personal life story redemption by getting Iron Man. I mean, what a 180 turn he is, but like how it turned his life around. Just everyone who was chosen, I think, was perfect for their role, and I love it.
And going back to Brie Larson's performance, y'all were talking about her snarkiness and just her general attitude and the way she carries herself. There are kind of glimmers of her past personality that she brings through in that performance, and I think that's what's brilliant, because she starts out and she's very basic. You could have argued that she's wooden, but it's just because she doesn't have any memories before when she arrives on the Kree homeworld of Hala. And then throughout the movie, like I said, you get little glimmers of her snarkiness and her rogue tendencies, and she's a quirky 90s kid. I mean, and we haven't really seen that personality in the MCU up to this point. A lot of people are either very stoic or heroic or downtrodden or just way too goofy. I mean, she's kind of I don't know, I feel like her personality was real unique, and to see her come into it by the end of the movie, rediscover herself, I think that's going to add an interesting dynamic to the Avengers come Endgame.
You know, something you said, she's not very stoic like the other Avengers or the heroes. And one of the lines that she says, and it's towards the very end of the movie, she says, "I don't have to prove myself to you." Yeah. Like, she doesn't have to prove that she's a hero. She just is. Yeah. Like Vision, she just is.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's really cool. Like, none of the I never felt a push of, I am woman, hear me roar. Yeah. I am anything, hear me roar. She just is. It wasn't too much. It wasn't too little. Yeah.
It's ironic because I think these are also very, very few. It's just they're speaking louder than the ones who are positive. Some of the people who are calling this movie like a feminist agenda. Yeah. It's ironic that she has that kind of mentality, and they're screaming, "Oh, feminist movement."
She's very subdued. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the irony of her character, and then the people who are screaming louder, who are negative about a female-led movie. Just because there's irony in that, I feel like.
Yeah, and this is something that we talked about in the car on the way back, but for the audience, something that I appreciate. So I absolutely love Wonder Woman. Have no complaints about that movie. Love Gal Gadot. She's a hero in her own right in real life. She was a fighter pilot, I think, and was Miss Israel or something. So she's fantastic. And I loved the movie Captain Marvel. One of the things I appreciate, though, about Captain Marvel is that her body wasn't really a focus. And it's ironic if you consider, I watched a video about how much Brie Larson trained.
It was like 9 months of training.
Intensive, like 4 hours a day.
She pushed a Jeep. Like, her body pushed a Jeep.
She got to the point. So Brie Larson was fit as any woman on this planet to train for that movie. It was incredible to watch that training video. Yeah. But the movie wasn't about her body. So in Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot is gorgeous, she's stunning, and the outfit obviously is very flattering and emphasizes her body. I think, but Evan pointed out, in a tasteful way. I don't think it was gratuitous. But Captain Marvel's body wasn't a feature she was in a suit, and she was just in a warrior suit, and that's what it was. And it wasn't like in the comics where you see their breasts are very, very defined, and it's very obvious, and their waist is, this big.
Well, even other female heroines within the Marvel universe have felt like their bodies have been a little bit more revealed. Like the Scarlet Witch, she's like, I feel like every time I put on an outfit, it's just lower and lower and lower, and my boobs are out. I mean, she may not have said that verbatim, but
that was
yes,
the gist of
and
what she
you can
said,
tell,
though,
like Scarlett Johansson, all of her features are always out there, and you're like, goodness, can you not hide? Can you not just let a woman be what she wants to be and just respectful? Do it respectfully.
To be fair, guys are objectified in the MCU too. In
that
certain
is true.
extents.
Yeah,
I mean, you get shots of Chris Pratt, being thrown into prison with this yellow goop and water running down his torso.
That's true.
And it goes both ways.
That's very true. Yeah.
And but yes, the point being, it was very refreshing to see the movie really just focus on her as a character, her power, not.
And her suit is her entire body, like from neck down, she's covered.
Yeah.
And so, but also, I think they're noticing that because it seems like in the end game posters, Black Widow is covered neck down.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I might be
remembering
the poster differently, or even in the we're to get to this later, but the red and white suits in the end game trailer, they're like neck down. So maybe they're kind of being more conscientious of the females in their costumes.
I bet they are, because oftentimes these women who get interviewed about their roles in movies like this, and it's a male interviewer, he often asks, so how'd you get your body to look like that, to fit into your outfit? It shouldn't be about your body. It should be about who you are as the character and how did you act it out? How good of an actress were you in this, Yeah.
Or they'll ask about fashion choices and that kind of stuff in the film. Or...
Just because it's a woman. They don't ask them in that.
And it's not that, like, because, I think we all appreciate someone who's, like, physically fit and has a good physique. So it's not that it always bothers me that they're in, like, a skin-tight suit. It was just cool to see that it was almost no part of Brie Larson's character. It was just a warrior suit, and that was it. That was just like, oh, that was cool. Yeah. It didn't have to be sexy.
It was refreshing, for sure.
Yeah.
And kind of getting back to the characters in the story, I thought this was one of the more unique and well-written stories overall in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because it was a character study, and it was a character journey. Like you said, Jake, we follow her throughout her journey of discovering who she was back on Earth, who she is as a hero, as a warrior, and who she's going to be. And a lot of that kind of ties into the whole the Kree-Skrull conflict and the plot twist that they have with the Skrulls, with Ben Mendelsohn's character Talos, with the Kree actually being the ones who are enslaving, the bad guys, who are enslaving the Skrulls, who are trying to take them out, whereas the Skrulls are refugees. They're just trying to find a home. That was very interesting. It was a bold choice, and it gave the Skrulls so much more layers, kind of like what Marvel has been doing with their villains as of late. It made them more sympathetic, and they weren't villains. It turned it on its head, and it was an interesting concept, because in the comics the Skrulls are just these menacing green creatures, or at least to my understanding. And in this one they gave them depth, and it made for a much more interesting experience.
I didn't believe the Skrull Ben's character, Talos. I didn't believe him at first. It was already at the moment where we could start to see that. And on a personal note, I was sad that my boy Jude Law was bad, because I love him. But I think it was at a point where we started to realize that Jude Law's character was bad. But even when the Skrull were talking, they were on the farm at Monica's house, and her mom, they were starting to look sympathetic. I thought that was fake. I honestly, there was a 5-minute portion where I thought both the Kree and the Skrulls were bad, but for their own reasons. Yeah. I didn't realize yet that they were being honest. They were honestly refugees, and they were flipping it on its head. I thought it was like they're trying to trick Captain Marvel, and now we've got kind of two sets of bad guys. But then I realized, I was like, oh, they're being sincere, and it was a flip.
It was cool to also, just going on a completely different aspect of the movie, it was cool to see younger versions of Coulson and Nick Fury, and the de-aging technology they had on them was really spot on. It was flawless, and it was. I thought they did a good job, especially Nick Fury, because we see more of him than we do of Coulson.
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson he doesn't play Nick Fury as we know him in the future. He plays a Nick Fury that would have existed in the 90s that hasn't had the life experience and experience with heroes yet. And I just thought he added a lot to that, and it made for it was cool to see his interaction with Captain Marvel and how that eventually leads him to create the Avenger Initiative and look for other heroes. And the movie as a whole just does a good job of filling in a few of the gaps of the MCU, like continuing the timeline of the Tesseract, which is what gives her powers. Yeah. And stuff with Nick Fury and Coulson. And
their relationship was fun. I liked watching their interactions.
Yes.
I hope we get to see some more of that in Endgame, because I think that'll be kind of cool. It'll be cool to see old friends reunite. Yeah. So we see interactions with like him and Coulson. They're probably the oldest two friends in the franchise up to now. It'd be cool to see him and Captain Marvel interact again after all these years, because like they had a very much of a because like you said, he was playing the character differently because it was 30 odd years before the current timeline, and so it's cool to see him play that as a younger version, a more not naive version, but like in that sense of naivety, not as scarred yet. Pardon the pun, but not as scarred yet. But it'd be cool to see how that friendship would evolve after all this time.
Well, you're assuming that Nick Fury comes back. You're assuming that
if he doesn't come back, that's some issues. But I think I liked their relationship in the movie.
I did too. Yeah. I have a side note. It's very small and has almost little to do with the plot, but it's just something that I appreciated as a viewer. Did any of y'all see iRobot, the Will Smith movie? Okay, yeah, love that movie. So in that movie, Sonny the robot is an AI who's kind of independent. He's not a controlled robot. He can think his own thoughts. And he has to learn about human interactions and nonverbal communication. And he learns early on in the movie what a wink means. And a wink, Will Smith's character says, is a sign of trust. And so later in the movie, Sonny, to protect the two main characters, Will Smith and the lead actress, I can't remember her name, he actually takes the lead actress in his hand and puts a bullet to her head. And Will Smith is about to try to kill Sonny, but then Sonny winks at him. So Will Smith knows he's not bad. Everything's going to be okay. He just needs to play along with it. What I liked in Captain Marvel was when Talos, in the beginning, when he was trying to be the director, Nick Fury said in the elevator, he was like we did in Havana, right? Because he was testing him because he was trying to see if he was fake. And he goes, yeah, like Havana. And then you see at the end, when he's dressed up as a Kree warrior escorting them, he says, remember, like Havana. And so Nick Fury then knows, okay, I just appreciated that detail because I've seen it before, and I like how it is a sign of trust.
Yeah, I agree with that.
See, and I didn't really get that until watching it this second time, because I was like, it was going so fast the first time watching it that I'm really glad that you caught it and you said it, because whenever all of that was going on, I completely missed it the first time until it was like, Oh, he's him? What?
He said it quietly.
I missed that dialogue, but through context, I figured out it was actually Talos in disguise.
Because the cat didn't attack him.
I missed that dialogue. I didn't hear that. Because it was quiet and it was a lot happening at once, but I'm glad you caught it.
Yeah. There's a lot of nuance in the movie and a lot of things that you may not pick up on until your second time. But for those of you who don't care about spoilers, or for those of you who just need to be reminded, the Skrulls can shapeshift. And I thought that was an interesting plot element to the movie because you have multiple instances, like when Coulson's in the car with Nick Fury, and then Nick Fury gets a call from the real Coulson, who they've left behind at the Blockbuster.
Which is hilarious.
Side note, how great was it to see Blockbuster again? Took us all back to the 90s.
Radio Shack.
Yes, and Radio Shack. Yes. Oh, man. Good old Radio
Shack. It makes it even more interesting that they made the Skrulls the good guys because, first of all, through all the marketing, you see the first trailer showcases the grandma on the train, and she's revealed to be a Skrull. And so, all the marketing kind of pinpoints the Skrull as the bad guy. And so the fact that they flipped the script and made them the good guys, and also because of their abilities, like you would assume that
they're not
an entire race that can shapeshift and turn into anybody they see would be the ultimate bad guy. And it's interesting how they make them a very peaceful people, even with all their abilities.
Well, but they all have the capability to do it, but like Talos said, it takes practice and talent,
Talents.
skill. You have to work at it because not everybody has the ability to do it, but not everybody's
Maybe
good
that
at
was
it.
kind of their caveat to make it to kind of give an excuse to why this whole race of people don't use that.
Yeah.
They don't use it to. They use it. They don't use it in a bad way.
Why would I
Yeah.
want to be a file cabinet?
I'll pay you $50 right now to turn into a Venus flytrap. Oh man, yeah. I hope they don't get rid of the scrolls completely. I'd love to see that again, to see them shapeshift and use that as a plot element in the future, because it really added some cool twists and turns in this movie, and a very cool fight scene between Captain Marvel and an old lady. That was
Yes.
It was weird to watch, but it was fun.
It was fun.
Why don't you share your little theory about the fourth scroll?
Yes. So, for those
yeah.
of you who have seen the movie, and once Captain Marvel ejects in the escape pod and lands to Earth, 4 Skrulls follow her down. Talos, the main, we think he's the villain, but he's the main Skrull character. His scientist. There's a third Skrull who gets killed posing as Coulson, dies in a car crash. But then there's a 4th Skrull that poses first as the old lady, and then she poses as another man on the train.
Well, first he's a
And-
surfer guy, then the old
Yes,
lady.
that's true. Yeah, surfer guy, old lady, and then the man on the train. But then when she gets to the train station, she loses him. We never see that guy again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's assumed that he's somewhere out in the world, posed as somebody. So it just, I don't know. Marvel and Kevin Feige, the producer, High Lord over all Marvel, he has a very good attention to detail.
But theoretically,
don't
he'd be
think
a good guy, right? That Skrull would be a good guy, theoretically.
Theoretically, yeah, and I'm not saying he is a bad guy, and I'm not saying there may be nothing to it. It may have just been some oversight on the director's part, but I like to think that was an intentional detail that they put in there. Where's the 4th Skrull? Where did he go? Will he play into the plot in the future? It was just an interesting thought.
Well, and even the very first, I told Evan that before going into it, I was like, "Ooh, I bet Hawkeye and his family they are Skrull," and yes. So whenever they were all sitting at the table in the very end, eating dinner together while he was healing, Talos was healing, I was like, "This is the moment that we're gonna find out that he is Hawkeye." And Hawkeye's family.
And that's why they had the safe house.
And that's why they had this. Yes, because I thought that would be perfect. That would be the perfect secret identity.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have internet. They weren't connected to anybody but
They had
themselves.
a kid and a wife.
Yes, they had a kid and a wife. And I was like, oh, this is the moment. And then like they left in a ship, and I was like, dang it, that's not it.
But see, the
That's not
only
it.
thing for
But
him to have done that,
still.
there would have had to have already been a pre-existing Hawkeye for
Yeah.
him to turn into. So,
That-
but yeah, that would have
that's
been
true.
cool. When you looked at me and grabbed my arm, I was like, "Oh yeah," I got really excited too, and then it didn't happen.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Speaking of Hawkeye, he did not get tested, but his sideburns did. If you look at the new movies, his half his head got
Yeah.
tested.
I watched a YouTube video yesterday, and it was this guy who every time he watched the latest Endgame trailer, and every time a bad haircut came on screen, he would play a tritone. For those of you who are music theory nerds or know anything about that, and it was really only Hawkeye. Anytime Hawkeye came on screen in the trailer, he would just like no, he would like play it and like crescendo
Oh my
with it and say,
gosh.
and it was too funny.
Funny
Yeah.
side note. So when the first Thor came out, Hawkeye was first introduced because he was up on the crane.
Yep.
And he was, ready to shoot Thor if needed. And I really loved Jeremy Renner as an actor. But when I was younger, back in 2011, or whenever his name was announced, maybe it was 2012, I thought that his fighter name was Hot Guy. I didn't know it was Hawkeye. And so I was so confused that they would just call somebody Hot Guy. And then I quickly, but that was just a funny aside. I thought his name was Hot Guy.
That'd be Thor's character name.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think with the loss of the sideburns, his title has been revoked, at least for Endgame. But anyway, we digress. I mean, the movie, yes, Captain Marvel was incredible, and it was a great experience for all of us. But at least for me, there were a couple cons. Some of the action I didn't think was filmed incredibly well, especially the scene where she's been captured by the Skrulls. They're going through her memories and she breaks out. There's so much shaky cam that's going on. It's really hard to see what's going on in the movie. And these are like minor nitpicks. There's a few pieces of dialogue that I didn't think worked well. And the first time I watched it, it was a little slow and I was having to figure things out. But the second, like each time I've watched it, I've liked it more and more because Jake, you and I talked about this earlier this weekend, that you just love being invested in this world. Mm-hmm. And I do too. Like when you said that, that just clicked with me. This world is incredible that Kevin Feige and Disney and Marvel have built. And the more I watched it, the more I just got to kind of sit back and enjoy being immersed in this world and immersed in Carol's story and just the character journey that she goes on. And because we get to discover who she is, and because of for the most part, great writing and all of that behind it, it's going to give even more oomph to her actions in Endgame and what happens then. And, but anyway, those were just a couple cons I had. Overall, I still think it's a really good movie, a great addition to the MCU.
Great movie. Something interesting I was thinking about. Well, no, you brought it up because you were thinking about if this would be in between this 1995 and Endgame or after is her dealing with the superior being. Or what was it called?
Supreme Intelligence.
The Supreme Intelligence. Yeah. I want to see that. And it is, okay, so if the Kree people are evil, does that mean that the superior intelligence is evil and is, inspiring Kree to promulgate this injustice?
Because
like,
I think so.
That everybody goes to see the
exactly.
Yes.
So
it's almost like a Big Brother type of scenario. Yeah. Like he's always watching.
It has control over you.
Yes.
So to see that battle and what that entails, and if that's going to be a huge villain, like as powerful as Thanos villain that tries to expand the universe, like we were talking about, like Dormammu. What's the other? It was Dormammu, and who's another big scale?
So for those of you who don't know, Disney just bought 20th Century Fox, which owns the film rights to Fantastic Four, X-Men, and I believe Namor the Submariner. And so one of the big villains in Fantastic Four is Galactus. He now could be a potential big threat.
So I'm thinking Galactus, Dormammu, or the superior being.
Supreme Intelligence.
Sorry. One of those three, if they end up being a big player, that would be interesting to see that.
It would be very interesting. Yeah, we'll have to see how it turns out. But so now we get to the fun part, the juicy stuff. We get to speculate about Endgame. Yes. So I think we had mentioned this earlier. We talked about characters dying and coming back. Who do y'all think's coming back?
Ooh,
okay.
Go ahead.
Let's backtrack a little bit. Let's start with what we know from all the trailers. So we can assume that Hawkeye's family, or at least his daughter, gets dusted from the trailer. We know that Ant-Man gets out of the quantum realm. We don't know what time period that's in, and we don't know where in the timeline that's going to be. We know that there's a time jump in the movie because, as Margaret kind of pointed out to me, throughout you see shots where Black Widow still has her haircut that she had from Infinity War. The blonde bob. We see points where it's in a transition period between blonde. Like it's growing out in between blonde and her natural hair color of red. And then we see it when it's pretty much straight red.
And the poster is her red braid.
Yes.
The promotional poster is red braid, and the Infinity War poster is her blonde bob. So that's a very interesting choice to make, as the promotional poster is her red hair.
Yeah, Cap also shaves his beard. We see in certain shots, especially in that Captain Marvel post-credit scene, we know that when they're looking at her pager and when she arrives is very early on because he still has the beard from Infinity War. But later we see him shave beard. He almost looks a little thinner too.
Yeah.
That's just me looking into it. But what else do we know? We know that at least we think that Tony and Nebula make it back to Earth because we see them in the final shot walking in what we think is their quantum realm suits, which... That could be misdirection because in the Infinity War trailer, there was the whole shot of them running into Wakanda and the Hulk was with them. That shot was never in the movie. And the Hulk doesn't show up in Infinity War except for the very beginning of it. So the Russos like to misdirect a little bit. So we don't know 100%, but we can assume that Tony and Nebula make it back safely. We know from the promotional posters that Pepper's alive, Happy's alive, and Valkyrie is alive. Trying to think of what else we know. We know that they have some sort of plan to try and undo what Thanos did or resolve it, because in the most recent TV spot, Cap says, we have a chance to take it all back, and we're going to do it whatever it takes. So we don't know what that plan is, whether it's time travel or a sacrifice that has to be made to bring the characters who got dusted back. We know that there's something is going to happen. So that's all of what we know. We know that Spider-Man is probably coming back in some form or fashion because we have his sequel, Far From Home, that's been announced. We can assume that Black Panther's coming back because his solo movie made bank at the box office, almost $1.4 billion. And he made over $700 million domestically, which is the most of any MCU film domestically, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But if it's not the most, it's one of the most. But other than that, that's pretty much all that we know. So with all of that in context, who do y'all think is coming back?
Well, sorry. Before we get into the predictions,
sure.
I just want to comment on the brilliant marketing of it, where they had the dusted characters in black in the posters, the ones who were still alive were in color, and then the trailer where there was the hint of red and I just think that the marketing for this movie was
the spot color was what threw me. Like I loved it in the trailers. And even that they're what we assume are quantum realm suits, those were red with white, and that I don't know if that was spot colored in the trailer, but it's just emphasized.
No, it was all in color, but it ties everything.
Yeah. I just thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I agree. And like we've seen because we were looking at I think was it the Chinese poster?
Yes.
That came out, and that one was the only one I've seen so far, which I kind of wish we had that one in the States, where it has the heroes in the back, and as a big background, but the forefront has all the dusted characters as silhouettes almost. I think that was a really cool touch to have as a poster, and we don't have that one in the States.
And the marketing's also been brilliant, at least from someone who's so invested in the universe that it's given us little to nothing about what this movie's going to be.
Because they said the trailer is only the first half hour of the film.
Yeah, like the first 20 minutes. First half hour. What we live in such an age to where, trailers are awesome, but a lot of them give way too much away.
Yep.
And so it's cool to go. I remember there was an interview where one of the writers, or it may have been one of the Russo brothers, they said, when I went to go see Empire Strikes Back when I was a kid, I had no idea what was going to happen because there just wasn't that much promotional material for it. And he said, we wanted this to feel like that in our marketing campaign. Yeah. So we're going into Endgame and we know next to nothing. We can speculate and theorize, but I did a ton of speculation and theorizing before Infinity War, and I pretty much had to throw all of that to the side because the Russo brothers did such a good job of misdirecting us in a good way, though. So I'm very interested to see what they do with Endgame.
And how all the characters or all the actors. Clearly, this was in their contract because they all posted 1 month, and it was 1 month period #Endgame. Yeah, and they had their poster, so clearly they all had to. We're gonna do this in unison, guys. But that was the social media marketing was excellent.
Outside of paying for the posters we made, free social media marketing.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Mark Ruffalo and Tom Holland have been locked in like a cellar with no access to the outside world, so they can't spoil anything. And someone else is running their social media until Endgame comes out.
Everybody died. Yeah. Hey guys, I'm alive. Yeah.
Man. That is one. It's the sidebar, but that's one thing I don't like about the Dark Phoenix trailers. Is I felt like the whole film is in the trailer.
Oh yeah.
This is a sidebar for Dark Phoenix coming out. I think it's in a few weeks.
Yeah, it's not long away.
Which I am excited about.
Yeah, I'll definitely go see it. But the trailer, I feel like gives almost the entire plot away. Yeah, and that's kind of annoying. But it's just a sidebar comparing how MCU has handled things versus the X-Men and now it's Fox. This is now Disney. So,
all right. So let's go around the table. Jake, who you got? Who's dying? Who's coming back?
Okay, so I think Spidey will come back. I think Black Panther will come back. I think Shuri will come back.
Yeah,
and I hope she does because she's not having a screen time yet between Black Panther and Infinity War. She needs more screen time, and people love her. So I think she's a shoe-in to come back. She may come back first, for all we know. Yeah, because she was the one dusted character that was off screen. That we didn't know about until the poster was revealed. We didn't know she was dusted. I think she'll come back. I think we'll have Groot come back, and we'll have, what's his name?
Chris Pratt?
Not Chris Pratt.
Drax.
I think Drax will come back. I think Chris Pratt will come back, only because we know Guardians 3 is filming. Yeah. And so, again, one of those sidebars where they should have delayed releasing of the announcement of the film. To remember who all was dusted, there's a lot. I think as far as... I think Scarlet Witch and Vision will come back. Which that might be all of them. I might be naming too many names.
Fury and Hill.
I hope they come back. I think Shuri will. Maria might not.
She's unimportant.
I think Gamora will stay dead. I think Loki will stay dead. I think Heimdall will stay dead. I have the poster in front of me now. I thought that was Aquaman for a second. It's like, wait a second. It's Bucky with his long hair.
Disney owns everything.
The Wasp will come back. I don't know. She was Doctor Strange will come back. Mantis might stay dead, even though she really did play a big part in Infinity War as far as taking down Thanos. I think she might stay dead.
What about Hank Pym in the original Wasp? Janet Van Dyne.
There's a good chance they may stay dead.
Yeah.
Because just based on their relevance at this point, because I think if the Wasp comes back, Ant-Man and the Wasp will replace Hank Pym in the original Wasp. So I think that might just kind of play in tandem together. As far as who will be dead at the end of this, there's a really good chance Cap will die. I know he's done filming. I think if you follow him on social media, you know he's done filming. So I think either he's going to die or he's going to pass the buck to somebody and just kind of fade away into the distance and like kind of just become a hermit. So I think there's a good chance he might die. There's a good chance Okoye might die. Just I hope she doesn't. I hope she doesn't because I really like her as a character. But I'm just looking through the list here. And there's a strong rumor going around. I don't know the legitimacy of this rumor that only 2 of the originals are going to make it after Endgame. There's just a lot of speculation about that. So I don't know. I mean, I can definitely see it because I don't know.
I've got 2 who will make it from that list.
Okay. I know just from looking at the emotion that the people who have played these characters have shown so far, they all got tattoos after they finished filming Infinity War together. The original 6. And so they all have matching tattoos. And so, like, just the fact that they had that emotion after filming, I think maybe after filming Endgame they got the tattoos. But I think that might just be a sign of, like, we're not coming back to film anymore. So I wonder who's going to make it, who's going to stay. Pepper might be gone. I hope not, because she has a baby. Pregnant or has the baby?
Neither. I mean, we don't know either. We know they don't have a baby. Tony talked about him having a dream that they had a kid. I could see her being revealed to be pregnant. In this movie, but
I keep forgetting names too. Happy, he might be gone. I'm looking at all the posters and it's just the posters. I think who is Doctor Strange's Wong? He might be gone.
Wong.
Hawkeye might be gone.
Yeah,
he could be one that could honestly easily be seen. Who would be gone?
Oh, you mean Hot Guy?
Hot Guy might be gone. So those are kind of at least my predictions. And like again, a lot of these could probably just be all for naught. Probably not, because I really don't have a lot of. I'm kind of going in like what Margaret did with Infinity War, kind of going in without any expectations. I think that's, at least in my opinion, a better way to go in. The only obvious one I think might make it are Spider-Man and Black Panther, and the Guardians. True, because of the trilogy or the sequel announcements. But even that, you mentioned something a little while ago about. I mean, for all we know, they could kill off Spider-Man, but Far From Home could be a flashback. Yeah. Or it could have come before Infinity War. Because I think you mentioned too that we get to the end of Far From Home being him getting the Spidey sense that we saw in Infinity War with his hair raising on his arms. Mm-hmm. So that might be a stretch, but that very well could be. But, it could be. But they're also using him probably as the next phase of the MCU, so I doubt they would actually kill him off. Yeah. Him and Black Panther. It's just they're also new. Where I think we're going to be assuming that Captain Marvel, Spider-Man, Black Panther are going to be like the helm of the next phase of the MCU. Yeah. So I would be very surprised if they actually did die.
Yeah. Margaret, who you got?
Y'all may think I'm crazy, but I think everybody's coming back. Everybody's coming back. Everyone who died is coming. Including Loki. But it is because I read somewhere, and it may be false, that it was difficult getting everybody in for filming. Because there's going to be everybody in one scene. So there may be a big battle type scene where everybody is there. That's why I believe everybody is coming back because of that. And I thought it was Scarlett Johansson who accidentally leaked that, like just talking aimlessly to somebody. Yeah. But that's my reasoning for why. I think the 2 original who will stay involved with the movies will be Thor and Tony Stark. Mm-hmm. Even if Tony Stark doesn't have any more of his own movies as Iron Man, I think that he would be involved with everybody and being a brain source, someone that they can poke their brain with, and they're like, hey, what are you doing technology wise? And he and Shuri, even like that would be something that he gets invested in more so, and putting away the suit, officially putting away the suit, and sticking with technology.
Oh my gosh, they would be such a fun best friendship.
Being a
Shuri and Iron Man.
Oh, man.
And, well, I mean, because he wouldn't have Stark Industries anymore, because he left that to Pepper, right?
Correct.
So he could work with Shuri in downtown, wherever they are.
Downtown Wakanda.
No. Because Black Panther, he bought a building.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That's in California.
Somewhere in California, and Tony Stark could work there with Shuri, and he may pop up every now and then in the other movies, but I don't think he'll have a big movie again.
Wasn't Robert Downey Jr. quoted as saying, I'll play that character till I die?
Yes. If they wanted to, yeah.
What would be really, really cool is like if he ages with it and the Marvel Universe is still going on and he's like 65 years old and they need him one last time as Iron Man. Like he could do it, and he would be an old presence for them.
An old Iron Man.
An old Iron Man. Like I can see that happening.
Have a gray suit.
Yeah, him going out in a blaze of glory as old Iron Man. That'd be pretty cool. Like Logan for the X-Men.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion on everything. I know y'all may think that's kind of crazy. But
Do you mean they're coming back to coming back and staying alive, or coming back to battle and then maybe dying in battle? Because you mentioned they come back for a big battle scene.
I think everybody's going to come back, but I'm not sure everybody will stay
and survive.
Okay.
Okay.
I could see people dying after that, but I think everybody will come back from being dusted.
I can see that, because that would be a very big impact to have them die again.
Yeah.
If they were dusted and they come back, they all come back to battle and then actually die in real life.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
That would be not die from dusting, but die from battle.
So you think Hulk's toast in Banner?
I don't want him to be. I think Hulk is such a great... I love what they've done with him since the old movie. I don't like the old movie, but with Mark Ruffalo as playing Bruce Banner, they have done a great job with his character and the character development and his relationship with Thor. It's fun and funny to watch.
Yeah. But you think he's dead?
I think he will. I don't want him to. I don't see how he is going to die. But I think Mark Ruffalo is done with it. And maybe they bring somebody else to take that over. I would hate that.
Me too.
Because Mark Ruffalo does such a great job.
Yeah.
But that's why I think Mark Ruffalo's done. And maybe he joins Tony Stark and he's like, okay, I'm okay with being like a cameo and popping up every now and then, but I don't think he's going to have as big a role as he has, at least in Thor Ragnarok. And even before that, I don't feel like he had much of a role anyway, so I don't understand why he would want to be done, but I can see it happening.
They bring in She-Hulk. That'll be the next female superhero movie.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. Okay, so I want Marvel to commit to hard deaths.
Me too, girl.
I want them to kill somebody and kill them for good, and I want it to be tough, and I want people to cry. I want them to commit to hard deaths, because one of the biggest things that came out of Infinity War was a whole bunch of people on the internet and people that I heard talking, they're just like, oh, they're not gonna, because like the same thing we're talking about 3 and 4 times now, Spider-Man and Black Panther. Immediately there were so many people who walked out of the theater going, none of those people are dead. So I want some people to stay dead. Some people that I think should stay dead, even though I don't want them because I love them. Loki, Heimdall, Gamora. I want them to stay dead. Past that, I think Evan and I had talked about snap people coming back, but then pre-snap people staying dead. So like the 3 I just mentioned, Loki, Heimdall, and Gamora.
Fingers crossed.
They were pre-snap, so them staying dead, but then everybody coming back. And then kind of what y'all were saying, maybe in Endgame, then there are going to be some deaths. In battle. They bring them back from the snap, but then people still die anyways. I don't know. I think like what Evan was saying about the Russos being good at misdirection, I think any predictions might be futile. Other than, I think, Chris Evans walking away from the character, so I could see him dying. Certainly Brie Larson is not going to die. Captain Marvel's not going to die. There's a lot of characters that I just don't care about, and so I don't mind if they die. So Valkyrie, don't care if she dies.
But she is the last of her kind.
That's true.
She could train others to be like her.
Be a new generation of Asgardians, because they're
good, but Thor is very Shakespearean in anything surrounding that, and Shakespearean is tragedy.
Yeah.
Her death, I mean, that could be the tragedy of the Valkyrie. She could go out and that's it.
Yeah.
But it's more surrounding Thor, not her. So I could see her living. I don't think she'll die.
Asgard has to rebuild. Rebuild necessarily their own world, but they have the opportunity to rebuild their people. To be who they want to be to the universe. So I don't think that would be... I don't want her to die.
I think I would not care if Mantis died. I just think that other than... hypnotizing Thanos for a bit, I think she is a useless character in the universe.
But she's beautiful on the inside.
She is, yeah. She's a very, yeah, she's... but past that, I would be interested to see about Jake's theory about Peter Parker, about if he's going to stay dead and his second movie is leading up to Infinity War. I don't care for Nebula, so I don't care if she dies. I just do not like her character. I know she's found or is finding some redemption, but I just don't care about her. But then past that, I'm not sure. Oh, and the one that I care least of all is I know this is very unpopular, but Black Widow. She's not gonna die. She will not die. But I just, as a personal choice, I don't care for Scarlett Johansson. So
I wouldn't mind her dying, because
of
all the supers, like she and Hawkeye, they are not super. Mm-hmm. They are just plain old human. Mm-hmm. They're killing machines, but they're not. There's nothing special about them.
Compared to the rest. Mm-hmm. Yeah, compared to the rest.
So I can see them dying. There's nothing really keeping them from dying.
Other than the talks of a standalone Black Widow movie, right?
Yeah, which could be a prequel.
I think it would be a prequel. I think, because I think it'd be her origin story. Mm-hmm. That's what I would assume. Yeah. Because we've only seen a little bit of her story through, I think it was Age of Ultron.
Yes.
When Scarlet Witch kind of zapped her brain, we saw her in the academy. Yeah. So I think that would be the storyline they would go with. I would assume. Yeah. That seems like a better fit, and I think it's also going to be R-rated, from what I understand.
Really?
Possibly.
Huh. That'd be interesting.
I mean, if there's torture and stuff, I hope it'd be. I hope they'd make it as dark as they could, because
her backstory is very, very dark. So I think they have an opportunity to really go back into her psyche and make it a dark film.
Because she said about 15 times in Age of Ultron, which I just couldn't stand. She's like, "I've got red on my ledger, and I have to get it." Like, she said that a dozen times, and I was like, "You have to stop talking." But so she's got a ton of red on her ledger that they could highlight in the prequel. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you really blot out that much red?
On my ledger?
Yeah. Did I mention I've read them? Okay. Okay, so all the Dusty characters are coming back. That's my call. All the ones that died pre-snap are dead. Goodness, I hope so. I'm tired of the fake killing.
Yep.
Stop it. Quicksilver and Yondu are the only people who have died, and I don't like death, and I love my characters, but there's got to be some stakes, and there's got to be some weight to what happens in Endgame. And whatever happens in Endgame doesn't need to take away from the weight that we felt at the end of Infinity War. Mm-hmm. Because that was such a well-executed ending. And even though we know Spider-Man and Black Panther are probably coming back, those deaths when Black Panther goes to Okoye and says, "This is no place to die," and then he dusts right in front of her, and then when Tony holds a dying Peter in his arms, and he stays longer because he has the spider sense and he knows that it's coming. He's trying to will himself to stay, and you just see him. I mean, that's just so powerful. And so whatever they do, I hope that impact sticks. I think Cap's gone. I've been saying that since Civil War. Yeah. But I think he's really gone this time, because I think that's going to hit us the hardest. I think someone we don't expect is going to die from the originals. And I'm with you, Margaret. I think it's Hulk. That's why I was kind of asking you, because I didn't think anybody would share that mentality with me. But I think nobody's going to expect Banner to go, and that's going to be a real impactful hit to the team.
Because he is so strong.
Yeah.
Like, he tried to kill himself. Banner tried to kill himself, but Hulk spit out the bullet. Yeah. Like, how do you kill him?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I think it could happen.
Yeah.
I think Thor could die.
What?
No.
Listen, his whole life is a tragedy. He has literally almost nothing left.
Yeah.
His mother's dead, his dad's dead, his brother's dead. The Warriors 3 were slaughtered by Hela in one scene that was so disrespectful to them because it was so quick. But anyway, they're dead. Yeah, everyone's coming back. Everyone's coming back. They're all going to be in one scene. It's going to be a 3-minute panorama shot from the Avengers. Yeah, but he's lost half of it. He lost all of his people. Then half of what was left. Then half of that what was left. It's kind of like he's saying to Rocket, "What more do I have to lose?"
Yeah,
I could see him going out in a blaze of glory. I don't think so because Thor Ragnarok made so much money. It was very popular, and I think he's expressed interest in wanting to stay. So I wouldn't bet on it, but I wouldn't be shocked if it happened because that would be a shocker. You know, I think somebody's going to die that we don't expect, and it could be one of those two.
And Thor's arc is so tragic, like you were saying, everything that he lost. That makes me, because Thor was my favorite for most of the MCU. Thor has been my favorite, and so to see him lose everything made me mad.
Yeah. And I mean, it's going back. Most of Shakespeare's works, outside of the comedies, all the tragedies are tragedies. They end poorly. And I don't know. I could see Thor's story ending badly, just like everything else in his life has. Yeah. But I hope not. I hope that's not the case, but I could see it happening. Yeah. I could see Hawkeye going. I could see Black Widow going. The only one I think is safe, I think Tony's safe, like you said. Mm-hmm. I think you've got to have that tether to the beginning of the MCU if it continues going until we're on walkers, you know. You still have that tether to the original MCU, and you can say, "Oh, well, back in my day, Tony Stark was in his 40s and became Iron Man," and it would be cool to see him be the grandfather of the MCU. Yeah. I like that idea. Yeah. I could see Nebula sacrificing herself in a blaze of glory, taking out Thanos, finding redemption. I don't want Gamora to come back, but I could see Nebula doing something that brings her back. Yeah. Because we've seen that their relationship has grown and grown and grown. I don't see any way that because all the Destiny characters died because of one snap. I don't see any way that some of them come back and some of them don't. Thematically, story-wise. Yeah. I don't even know how... Because a lot of people a lot of theories I've been reading been talking about a sacrifice has to be made from the original Avengers to bring the other ones back, like as a causality. I don't know if that'll happen either. I think sacrifices might have to be made along the way to get to the point where you can undo the snap. But some people are saying like for the others to come back, the others have to be dusted or something like that. And I don't see that happening. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling.
But then that goes into like, what about the normal people?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There's way too much. But anyway, main thoughts. Think the ones that died pre-snap are dead. The ones that died post-snap are coming back. I think Cap's toast. I think Hulk's toast. I think Thor, Hawkeye, and Scarlett Johansson. Black Widow could go. I think Tony's safe.
Something interesting. These people weren't on this. So we've been referencing a poster where we see the characters who survived and the characters who dusted, and that's what we've been going off of to make all our predictions. Two people who weren't on the poster that we talked about were Hank Pym and his wife. Yeah. And who was saying their theories about them? Was it you? Because you were just saying that Ant-Man and the Wasp would be the next generation, and Hank Pym and them would die off. I think that at least his wife will stay alive, Hank Pym's wife, because
she knows so much about
the quantum realm. She's been living there for decades. And was it in Ant-Man and the Wasp where we saw the micro universe? It was a very quick shot, but I saw like a castle, or I saw some kind of manor or realm where I saw a civilization. It was quick, and you had to be looking carefully to see it. But I think that she, at least, and she may die again in Endgame, but I think that she will be alive to help them with the quantum realm because she's been there for so long.
Yeah.
So I don't know why their posters aren't in it. Maybe it's because they want to add that surprise of them being bigger characters in it. But I don't think that you bring Michelle Pfeiffer for 5 minutes.
And they didn't bring every single, because they didn't bring M'Baku back in the posters either.
Oh, true, yeah.
Right.
But
Korg.
But I just don't think that you bring Michelle Pfeiffer in for a 5-minute cameo in Ant-Man and the Wasp and you don't bring her back again.
That's true.
I think she's going to be a player.
Yeah. I think they're going to come back. Because you were comparing them to the poster. Their main story, they're not a big part of the Avengers, though. That's probably why they're not in all of that, because they haven't been in an Avengers movie. Ant-Man's only been in Civil War, and then he was under house arrest, so he couldn't have been in Infinity War.
True. And there's not a poster with him either.
Yeah, there is.
Is there?
Yeah, he was in that group. Yeah, it's easy to miss.
And we know he's
Lupita Nyong'o's not in any of the Avengers movies, so we don't know her. We don't know her fate. That was probably just honestly production schedule with her because she's off doing other amazing films. But
Who?
Lupita Nyong'o, what was her character name? Nikita in Black Panther. So
I'll be mad if she's not in.
So that's probably a good thought because M'Baku, Nikita, Hank Pym, and his wife are not on posters, but they're also not in any of the Avengers films.
No. Why is that? I mean, I know Lupita's got stuff going on, but
like we've mentioned earlier, those films are already overloaded as it is, and Infinity War was so loaded, they had to pick and choose.
Yeah, you have to place priority on your main characters.
I think they picked the right characters to be in the film.
Well, I think you pick Lupita over Mantis. You pick Lupita over other people.
Yeah, but Mantis wasn't she on the ship with Thor? She was on the Guardian ship.
She was on the Guardian ship with Thor. She played a critical role. Yeah.
So it'd be kind of hard to where'd Mantis go?
Right.
So,
but it just in my heart, I'm just I just care about Lupita more. I care about Nikita more.
Yeah.
And so I think that she deserves screen time in Endgame because she was a critical part of what made people love Black Panther so much.
Well, that's just a testament to how great of a director Ryan Coogler is and the writing of that movie and the cast. I mean, you take supporting characters who weren't meant to have a great role and you just fall in love with them. And that's kind of the curse of the MCU is that you've got so many just side characters that we love. Like I love Korg from Thor Ragnarok, Taika Waititi.
Oh my gosh.
Man, that's but we're probably not going to see much of him in Endgame either, and you just kind of have to pick and choose. But the good thing about the MCU is that this
we're gonna go jump on the station. You wanna come? I didn't print enough flyers, so
the revolution has begun.
Taika Waititi is just a genius.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I can't wait to see what he does in the future. But anyway, so theories. What's going to go down? I mean, we know so little about this movie. It's hard to place any hard-pressed theories on this about what's going to happen.
I think we through us predicting who would survive, it kind of gave some predictions. But as far as the storyline goes of Endgame, I've gone back and forth on what I thought would happen and would not happen. And one of my very, very first predictions, which now is kind of leaning towards maybe not happening, and this is based on production shots that were kind of leaked, was going back in time to the Battle of New York in the first Avengers. Because we saw them in their old costumes from that first film. And so there's, at least in my mind, a lot of speculation of maybe somehow they go back in time to that, just stop that battle from happening entirely. But then that could cause a whole other chain of reactions in the future. But even you may mention this in a little bit, but you mentioned that you don't think Thanos may have as much screen time as we imagine. And I think that might actually be the case because this film was more about unraveling what he did, not about his character. Yeah. And so there really is a lot of open, in my mind, where this film could go and what the end result will be. I think there's going to be a big battle. I don't know who's going to be against, honestly. And we've talked about different villains that may or may not be in this film, but I think that there's not going to be a villain. I think the antagonist is undoing what Thanos did. I think that's going to be the main antagonist. Is the villain is the result.
Cleaning up the mess.
Yeah, that's at least I think adding in a villain would take away from what the plot should be.
I agree.
So, and the plot needs to be reversing what Thanos did, the emotional impact of having however long it's been, because the movie starts, or I'm assuming when the movie starts, that it's going to be already have a few years of a time jump since the snap occurred. And so I think the film needs to focus on undoing what Thanos did. And Thanos could still be the villain. If there's a time like backwards jump as far as like undoing the snap, Thanos can come back to fight. And maybe he tries to go back and snap again. And maybe this time they fight him with a better conscience and have more people to fight him. I don't know. Or they're united. Yeah. So I don't want to see like the same thing happening again on Wakanda. Like I don't want to see that happening.
Right.
But there's a very good chance that there might not be a central villain this time.
That's
That'd be a very interesting plot point.
It would be, because it would be the first Marvel movie in the MCU that didn't have a physical villain.
First superhero movie, really.
That doesn't have an actual villain. But I see what you're saying, and I can see your thought progression. I don't think it's going to play out. Obviously, they're going to have to undo some stuff and go back in time, and obviously time jumps are going to be a huge part of this. But I think that Thanos will have a presence in this movie. I think we're not seeing the last of Thanos yet. I think that he has to die or be conclusively defeated somehow. I don't know. I think we're.
I agree with that. I don't think it's going to be non-existent in this movie, but I think the focus won't be necessarily just on him like it was in Infinity War. Right. But there's a good chance that he'll battle again. Yeah. But like you said, we've also saw that at the end of Infinity War, he seemed like very defeated, and like there may be some very.
I thought he was at peace.
At least not
he's
saying
wounded.
Like not defeated as in emotionally defeated, but defeated as in like his arm is like destroyed from snapping with the gauntlet. Like he's just like he's very, very wounded.
The gauntlet itself is fried too.
Yeah,
from the snap.
So I think I really don't know what to expect. I've had so many theories in my head. This really could go a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree. And going back to what you said, I think Thanos has a presence, but I think the villain is more going to be the ramifications of what he's done, the ramifications of what the snap did in reversing that. I think there's a time jump, but I don't think the star of the movie is going to be like 4 years later. I think it's going to pick up like almost immediately after they find the pager. Mm-hmm. We see in the post-credit scene Captain Marvel arrives pretty early on. I think there's an initial battle with Thanos, or at least a visit to him. Mm-hmm. Not sure what all Avengers go. I'm not sure when it takes.
I think it's going to be Thor and Captain Marvel together.
I could very well see that.
I also ship them. I ship them.
Too.
Yeah.
Me too.
But I also ship him and Valkyrie, so I don't know.
No, I don't. I ship him and Captain Marvel because they're both so powerful. Imagine they're powerful, godlike babies.
Hashtag Thorl. Make it a thing.
Okay,
so they go to, whatever happens, they go and see Thanos, and whatever they find, they're either defeated by him, again, or they're disappointed by what they find, whether he succumbed to his wounds, or whether he's at peace about what's happened, and the gauntlet's fried, and he basically says, I did what I set out to do. The gauntlet doesn't work anymore. You can take it. There's no way to undo what I've done.
Right.
And that's when the time jump happens, because they're very defeated. They don't know what's going to happen. Another thing, I think Captain Marvel's I think she's going to be humbled in this movie.
Really?
I do. Her powers in the comics are very energy based, from what I understand. You put her in a place that lacks that, and I don't think her powers are going to be as strong. Plus, she still hasn't taken a dying star to the chest like Thor has, and until she does something on that level, I still don't know if she's as powerful as Thor. That's true. We could find out that in the 20 years she's been gone, she's done even more incredible feats. But I think something's going to happen that's going to humble her a little bit. I'm not saying she may not end up being the one who saves the day and showcases her power level, but I think there's something that's going to bring her down to earth a little bit, because I don't know. There's just some gut feeling I have about that. But anyway, I think they're going to be disappointed by something. There's going to be a time jump, and that's when Scott Lang shows up on the scene. He gets out of the quantum realm. And I think there's going to be time travel that involves use of the quantum realm. I don't know what's going to happen. I know at some point they go back to the battle in New York because Ant-Man is there. And Tony doesn't look like Tony from the first Avengers. He looks like the older Tony that we know from Infinity War and now Endgame. Also, I think that Tony's barf technology is going to be used. It's from Civil War. Okay, so you remember the beginning of Civil War. He goes back and relives the last time he sees his parents at home, and he's young. That technology was called BARF. It was a terrible acronym. He says, I really need to work on the acronym, but it allows you to basically create an environment from your memories, and it looks real. I don't. My thing is, I think that they may use that as a way to distract Thanos, and we may not even know that it's happening. Ooh. So, like, you see a lot of these events play out, and then all of a sudden, something happens. You know, the conflicting incident or whatever, and you realize that all of that was within his barf technology. Yes, yeah, like the Reality Stone, but it's what Tony created, and they use that to distract Thanos to go do something else. Maybe, maybe not. I think in some form or fashion it's going to be utilized, whether it's small or big, because the Russo brothers, just from all their movies, they introduce things and technology and plot points intentionally. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they would have thrown something in that could be that groundbreaking or world-changing or critical of a plot point just to show that Tony was distant from his parents and to set up his parents' death. They could have, but I think that'll be involved. So I think Thanos won't be as big a part of it. I think time travel will be involved, and I think the barf technology will be involved. But other than that, I really don't want to make any predictions or specific predictions because we just know so little about it.
I have a sidebar prediction, something that I don't think is integral to the plot, but I think you can kind of infer from the trailer. When Scott Lang looks at the missing posters on the poles, I think that's possibly his daughter, possibly his ex-wife, possibly his ex-wife new husband, possibly all three of them. Yeah. I think the poster that he looks at is somebody that he loves. I think it's his daughter, and so that leads me to believe that at least someone in his family has been dusted. Again, probably his daughter.
There's no prompt into why he even went to the Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yeah, because you could see in the trailer his look of horror. He was walking away. He was like stumbling away from looking at that poster, and you could tell it was a missing person poster. And I think it's his daughter.
But at least he's going to probably be spared from seeing any of his family members and friends die. Yeah. I think Hawkeye's going to hold his family in his arms and watch them dust, and that's why he's going to take on the Ronin persona and just go really deep into his emotions. I think the film might open with him and his daughter just on that farm. He's under house arrest, and he's teaching her how to shoot a bow and arrow, and then all of a sudden...
I think those are just memories, though. Like, whenever those are showed in the trailer, the tone of those shots is so much more different than, like, the battle scene whenever Ant-Man is going across the pencil... what
a sentence.
That scene feels more like a memory. Just the tone of it looks more like a memory than it does an actual.
I see what you're saying.
Moment.
That very well could be because like he seems very defeated and downtrodden when we see him like turn his head towards Black Widow. So that maybe
it looks like he has dark circles under his eye. He looks very defeated.
Could be. It also could open, I thought about this today, with Captain Marvel with the Skrulls. And she's introducing them to a home world, and all of a sudden, half of their population dies out. People that she knows, or what if it's even Talos and his family? They go, because we will have just seen them in Captain Marvel. And that also gives you perspective that this just wasn't localized to Earth everywhere.
In the
this
universe.
Is happening. Yeah. And they could even show montages of various people that we know. I don't know. That very well may not happen, but that could be another way that it opens. Yeah. And then that gives her that purpose to and then she gets the page from Fury, so she knows that those two things are connected. Yeah. I don't know. We'll just have to see.
The only thing I would say about that is that it's supposed to be 20 years later, unless it took him 20 years to find a home.
That's true.
Which it very well could. Yeah. But that'd be the only thing I'd say about that specific. But there could be an instance where Captain Marvel is in a situation
where she's there.
Yeah, or a situation similar to that what you just said, but she gets the page and has to leave. Well, maybe she visits the Skrulls after a long time, and that happens with the dusting.
Evan had mentioned this to me a while back, that because Captain Marvel still looks fairly young, like she doesn't look like she's aged 20 years, that time works differently in space to where it could have been that it's maybe been 5 years for her since she's been to Earth.
Same like on Safari, yeah.
Yeah.
So time could work. It works differently wherever she is, and so.
Holy cow! I didn't even think about that because we watched Interstellar a couple months ago. Yeah, but I maybe it just didn't click with me. But yeah, I remember us discussing it because. It's about Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, and we were talking about how what if traditional science plays a role in the MCU? When you're traveling away from Earth and you're at a certain distance, time functions differently for you, especially if you're somewhere like within a black hole, which is interesting because in the credits of Captain Marvel, you see her fly through a black hole, which I don't think that's anything to make to make light of.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just fun to think about, like, time functions differently for you. So yeah, what if Captain Marvel, for her, she's only been gone for a year or 5 years, and she gets back and it's like, it's been 20 years, and then tells that with that, yeah, that's interesting. I kind of like that. That's a good idea. Because she didn't look that much different other than her hair and her outfit's changed a little bit.
And like we've watched the Interstellar movie with Matthew McConaughey, and there was and Anne Hathaway, and there was a moment where the ship was just outside of the planet, but once they were inside the planet's atmosphere, 1 hour equaled 7 years for them out on that planet.
I remember that.
And so they come back, and it's been, 18, 19 years.
Yes.
Since...
And he was like, I eventually just gave up on you guys returning. And then you look back on Earth, and his daughter is the same age that he was when he left Earth. And it's just crazy to think about. But anyway.
And he gets back to Earth through the black hole, and his daughter is like 100 and something years old.
Yeah, and she's on her deathbed.
On her deathbed, and
It's real tricky,
he's like,
but...
I came back. I promised you I'd come back. And he was maybe a couple months older than he was when he left.
Well, this podcast has gone on twice as long as our first episode, so we made sure to give you enough content for all of those, all of you who have been waiting on episode 2. But for those of you who stuck with us this long, we're just happy that you came back. We hope that you'll like this, comment on it, share it, give us your perspectives about Endgame, what your theories are. If you saw Captain Marvel, did you like it? Did you not like it? And then Infinity War. Let's just keep gushing about how great of a movie it was. Or if you didn't like it, tell us. I mean, we'd love to hear from you and interact with you. And God, just continue to continue to talk about Marvel and all things MCU because we love it. And not sure where we're going to go from here because we do want to eventually break outside of the MCU. Margaret... Oh, can't even talk today. Margaret is a big Harry Potter fan, and so is Jake. So eventually, might want to get to that. I grew up with Star Wars, as did a lot of you. And then, we just.
And this fall or this winter, whatever it's going to fall, we had Star Wars Episode 9.
That's right. Yeah, The Last Jedi was very divisive, so that would be that'd be an interesting topic to get into as well. But anyway, any topics you want us to cover, post that in the comments, and hopefully we can get around to that in the future. This has been Evan and Jake and Margaret and Barrett.
Yeah, thanks for listening. See you next year.